Well, hello again, everyone. If you're like me, you may be having trouble remembering that this is actually Holy Week. With all the chaos around us, it's been difficult to keep the main thing, Jesus, the main thing, even during His week. So today I'd like to bring a slightly Holy Week related message, but don't worry, I'm not going to try to give a defense of the resurrection. Many scholars have already done that far better than I could ever hope to. But I would like to take a look at three events that led up to Jesus' death that demonstrate that He did indeed have power over death. And I want to look at them in a common sense way. You see, today, skeptics of our faith will look at these events and say it couldn't happen. But the skeptics of that day, and yes, there were skeptics in Jesus' day, what they could not say about these events were they didn't happen. And we'll look at them simply in the order that Scripture brings them to us. In Mark chapter 5, we have the touching story of the 12-year-old daughter of Jairus. And when Jairus understood that his daughter was gravely ill, he went to Jesus and he asked for his help. And Scripture tells us that when Jairus approached, Jesus immediately went with him. But he didn't go alone. In fact, the crowd was incredibly large. And it was this large crowd that the woman with the long-term bleeding disorder had to fight her way through simply to touch the hem of Jesus' robe. When she did, Jesus felt power leave him, and he looked around and asked, "Who touched me?" His disciples said, "Dude, have you looked around? The crowd's enormous. Who could tell?" And that's the point. It was a very large crowd, and they all went with Jesus to Jairus' home, and when they arrived, the crowd stayed outside. Jesus went in, raised the little girl, and everyone rejoiced, but no one claimed it didn't happen. In Luke chapter 7, Jesus is again traveling with a large crowd. He approaches the city of Nain. When he gets there on the outskirts, he intercepts another large crowd. This one is a funeral procession in which a widow had lost her only son. These two large crowds meet. Jesus stops them. He raised the young man from the dead, and he presents him back to his mother. Everyone saw, everyone rejoiced, but no one claimed it didn't happen. Lastly, in John chapter 11, we have the familiar story of Lazarus. And when Jesus first heard that his friend Lazarus was ill, he intentionally delayed going to him for several days. He wanted everyone to know when he got there that Lazarus was good and dead. When he arrived, Scripture tells us that a large number of Jews came from Jerusalem to comfort and support Mary and Martha, the dead man's sisters. When Jesus got there, everyone saw him and heard him pray to the Father. Everyone heard him give the command to have the stone rolled away. Everyone heard him say, "Lazarus, come out." Everyone saw the dead man. They all saw, many believed, but no one said it didn't happen. And friends, that's my point today. These events either happened or they did not. And if they did not happen, it would have been quite easy for the critics of the day to squelch the claims of Jesus in their tracks, just stop them dead. But if these things were true, then Jesus' following would have grew. And that's exactly what happened. If they're false, if they're bunk, the following shrunk. But because they were true, the following grew. And it grew and it grew and it grew to the point where Jesus' popularity was entirely threatening and intimidating to the Jewish leaders, and they began to look for ways and opportunities to kill him. Shrunk if bunk, grew because true. Just something to think about during this Holy Week. Until next time, keep the heart teachable.